I step, something in my jeans. FOI, you know that's the team, huh?
Peace. This is your brother Aidan X, and welcome to the processing class. I know you was born in the Nation of Islam, correct?
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you, who were you? Even though you was born in the Nation of Islam, who were you before you officially registered? What is your background?
Before I officially registered, I started to really focus a lot more on, just my artistic side. Before I came into the ranks and really fully committed to the nation on my own, I was always a very imaginative child. I was always a child of music, particularly hip hop and R&B. But I would say more so my dad always put me on to artists like Lupe, Mos Def, just some of the great pioneers that are especially grew up in the 90s, Tribe, Q-Tip, Busta Rhymes, artists like that. And, considering being around very spiritual people, very spiritual, disciplined people, that energy has always helped to stimulate my mind and to like bring forth my imagination. And I always had a thing for art, always had a thing for culture, always had a thing for writing, but more specifically, I always had a thing for poetry growing up. So coming into the nation, I was always a poet. And since I was born in the nation, I would say that part of me in which, even people in public school, they will always be the person I would always be the person that they would go to if they wanted to speak to somebody or if they wanted an opinion about something. I was always the person that would give like that sense of what they would call wisdom. But it was just the example in which I've come up into. And it was always a part of me even before I even decided to get into the process.
Yes, sir. Did you deal with any depression, anxiety, any vices before you officially registered and decided to take that example that's set by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and Master Fard Muhammad?
Absolutely. Those, depression and anxiety, that's been huge factors in my in before I accepted the teachings. That's been huge factors. And it was really because I wasn't really sure about exactly how I could be able to partake in, just universal struggle. Um, I was just very uncertain about particular things. I was always on edge about certain things because, there are many things in this country in particular that go on day by day, which can make basically anybody go crazy. I heard somebody call America basically a 2 billion acre asylum before, and I couldn't use any better description for that. So it's always been, I wouldn't say it's always been that, but in my preteen years and part of my adult life, I've grown up with that major.
Yes, sir. Did that ever make you go into like alcohol, any drugs or narcotics? That because the devil puts these things out, and he has certain conditions in the world that makes us, want to be accompanied by these vices. Did any of these vices ever catch you, even though you was born in the Nation of Islam?
Absolutely. I used to smoke a lot. I would say back in like beginning of junior year high school, that was like only had like a phase of it for just about a couple of months. Really because I had certain pains or certain stresses that I didn't exactly know how to deal with. And even then, I thought I was really dealing with it, but it was really just something to numb that very thing that wouldn't exactly leave, but it would just something that could just temporarily take my mind off of it. But once it dies off, it just keeps coming back and comes back even harder, like day after day.
Yes, sir. Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what was that thing? Now that you look back, what was that thing? Do you think that you was trying to numb with the weed and narcotics?
Really it was just facing the reality that we live in general. And I've actually been I've actually been still in the process of trying to basically face those particular things I was dealing with previously as well. Um,
Striving, that's what we're
and
doing.
the more I reflect on that, it was really just yeah, really just trying to suppress the everyday struggles based on the perception that I have of those struggles, as well as, how it relates to where I think my fate lies. You know, in the Nation of Islam, we're always taught about trials, and really they're meant for purification, but not more so just the to necessarily afflict or burden the person. But growing up as a young black male in America, I wasn't really able to get that into my mind. But just dealing with that, I just didn't really know how to fully accept that,
Yes, sir.
because of the way I see some of us get treated, the condition that I've seen some of our people in, some family members in. It just somebody who's young and who's troubled and who gets a view of these things when they really anticipate the best out of the world. It turns out to be a hard slap in the face for them, and then they can't help but to ask themselves, where are we headed from here? And they don't really anticipate anything good, unless they know the good that is of them, or the good that God has for them in store.
Yes, sir. I have another question. So, what was your journey like onto registering? Because I know we just talked about your background. What brought you in? Who brought you in into that decision of officially being a registered Muslim?
Yes, sir. So when I was about 19, this is kind of like when I realized that I was living in Maryland at the time. Um, and, I dropped out of school, college specifically, only went for about a year. Um, and I was really acting like I was gonna get everything figured out, but in reality, I was just kind of running from things, just trying to feel comfortable in a certain area. But I realized that Allah had to disturb that comfort, and after a while, I was just like, okay, I gotta figure out where I'm gonna live and everything. And my uncle called me. He lives out where I live now, Charlotte, North Carolina. And he said, I got a spot for you. He's not Muslim, but he's just family. But he was saying, I got a spot for you. And he was like, you could just basically live with us until you figure out what exactly you want to do. Um, and at the time, I was looking at lectures of the minister. However, I wasn't exactly developed in my character or in my spirituality necessarily. So, but I was on the road to doing so again. Um, and I just happened to just run into his page, his Instagram page before it got banned. Um, and it was, I believe it was Brother Jabril who I followed. He's originally from Oakland. We grew up in MUI together, so I always followed him on social media. And something just happened. I just happened to come across it one day, and I just started to get more and more in tune with it, and I started to appreciate and have an appetite for it more, because I was really displeased with the condition of the world and just how much it can exactly give me and feed me. But when I moved out here to Charlotte, North Carolina, um, I saw a clip of the lecture. I believe it was titled "The Man and the Mission," and something that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in that lecture that really struck to the core. That really struck to the core. And he said, God doesn't pluck the whole family. He may pluck one person out of the family. And people in the family that say, oh, he just gone crazy, but you don't care. You don't care about what they say, because you know deep down you're born for something. And he said, and if you keep turning your back on what God is calling you to do, he's going to whip you until you get your act together. And I got out of my seat instantly when I heard that, when I was 19.
Yeah.
A few months later, my father, who's Muslim as well, he's first generation Muslim. He said he was going to Savior's Day, and I was thinking to myself, I gotta go. Something was telling me like I gotta go. I want to go. Um, and I went, to the Juma prayer session. And as I was sitting in that silence after we were doing some of the joint recitations, like I could feel something surging within me energetically, where I started thinking about certain things that I wanted to do with my life, with my talents. And I was thinking to myself, like, I have gifts, I can actually use these. And I started picturing myself within the future doing all these things and utilizing all of these. But it just felt so vibrant and so colorful where I just felt alive. And I just felt that confidence and I just felt that energy just burst into me. And then I realized subconsciously, I was just like, because, as a child, I always struggled with thinking to myself, what can Islam actually do for my talents and for my joy and for just this adventure of finding myself? And Islam is not supposed to take away from you, but it's supposed to advance you. And it's supposed to advance you. And if you're developed spiritually, then everything will just start to enhance everything around you, everything within you. And that's when I realized, when I started to experience that for myself, coming to Allah again. And then I followed Brother Elijah Farrakhan for quite a while. And I realized he was working out with a brother. His name was Brother Saad. And I followed him too. And I just love the example of just seeing young Black men portraying a positive image, yet being militant at the same time, having that balance between kindness and humility, as well as the strength and the warrior spirit. And after a while, I just felt not only attracted by that, but I also felt welcomed by that too. Because sometimes, people may see a certain somebody, they may see like a celebrity, they may see somebody who's high up, but they feel that intimidation because, they feel threatened. They feel as though their esteem is threatened because they feel less than that person. But they were just treating me just like a brother. And I felt that. And that brought me in because I felt as though we could be brothers and it could be genuine. And so, I asked Brother Saad, since I'm out here in Charlotte, how do I get the process started? And then he directed me to Brother Minister Corey out here, and the Brother Captain out here. And from there, it took me about 6 to 8 months. Now I'm a registered member, and last week made a whole year since I've been in the nation.
Praise be to Allah.